Huge thanks to Lynn again for that great presentation. I hope everyone is really enjoying themselves, got a chance to get some snacks, look at the pretty, those yeast swans up the water, it's very pretty outside. We hope you can still stick around after the day finishes for cocktail hour. So, we've arrived at a slightly abbreviated time for panel. We're trying to make back up just a little bit of time, about 25 minutes or so. So we're going to piggyback on, I talked a little bit about the employee experience, mostly in terms of the journey. Lynn talked quite a bit about some of the ways that Ida Open is looking and at culture and how to make people feel a lot better about the work that they do. And that discretionary effort, you've been using that for a long time. I always know it's coming from that. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of questions to ask this esteemed panel. So maybe we'll just do some introductions first, in case you haven't met. Obviously, I guess you met Lynn, but if you want to say hi again.
Here I am.
There you go.
Once again.
Kim, do you want to say hi?
Kim Barrington. I'm from TSX Group, operator of the stock exchange, and I work in the trust business. And I operate all the channels we have today for shareholder services. So contact centers, correspondence functions, and starting to touch on the web a little bit. And I like to describe this space as being like having two clients all the time, and the shareholders who are calling in, and then the clients who want to know how the shareholders are feeling. And each client has their own set of expectations about that service delivery, so makes the job extra spicy.
Awesome.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Thank you for that spicy intro. And yes,
and so
Marco, please.
Yes, and it's Marco Sciarra. Eli and I go back about 20 years at it. So
About 20 years.
20 years. I worked with Jeannie. She was one of my original mentors back in the day. So I might just have to tag you in there as part of this panel.
You're on your own, buddy.
I had nothing to do with that, by the way. That was all Marco.
I support the operational planning and technology team within client operations. And so,
Do you want to tell what company?
well, for Valtan. Been in the telecommunications industry for a number of years now, 20 some odd years, and my passion's really around automation and workforce optimization products. And I also support the IVR routing team as well. And so a number of different issues that we're working on this year, including AI, and so that's a big honesty focus for the entire organization, as well as digital adoption. We're really working towards getting that up in terms of a way to deal with clients' issues and transactions are more quicker and so
Awesome. So thank you for that introduction. So I'm going to basically just ask this esteemed panel a number of questions that I've been thinking about on how to achieve a differentiated employee experience, and we can get their thoughts. So I'm just going to start arbitrarily. Trying to get talent, very difficult these days. There's this real fierce competition for talent, as I like to call it. How does this panel think that companies can get ahead in terms of being the first to attract talent? Maybe, Kim, we can start with you. That's okay.
Sure. I mean, I mainly go to the benefit of working in financial services, being our banker hours. That is a very attractive and appealing part of attracting talent to the call center operation from Monday to Friday, 8 to 6. So already we have an advantage. And we touched on a little bit of the whole hybrid work from home scenario. I think contact centers broadly are realizing that that is a key advantage too on the talent floor, is being able to leverage geography to service or to serve their talent needs and finding the right skill sets no matter where people may be. And I think thirdly, let me get this election change on. There's a lot of technology out there now to help you find the right skill set that you're looking for, and we're getting better at identifying those skill sets early on. It used to be, when I started my career at contact centers, we would look for people with contact center experience, as if that was the thing that made for good talent. And now we, besides using lots of sophisticated software to weed out people through the automated question and answers and pre-screens, we find better and smarter ways to identify the core competencies that are service people, like they're really just humans who love to talk to people and help people, and you can train business knowledge to anybody with that competency. And so I think we're getting better at identifying that and or early detecting of this problem.
That's a really good thought. So is the intention that for TSX anyway, it's less about having that contact center background and just more about fit and even the potential?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Lynn, any
So a couple things that we're doing. But what
we can
we're
give it to Lynn, please. So, thank you.
So a couple things we're doing is looking at our very early entrants and growing our own. So we're willing to take a risk on people and get them as interns and provide them with a true career path. So we'll want to get them after their sophomore year and then bring them in. We're looking for, especially overseas, where they've got an ability to go 3 months to work, 3 months to school, 3 months to work, and that's allowing us to grow our talent more quickly. In the kind of early 20s, maybe they've got 3 to 5 years of work experience. What we're really focused on is giving them more than just their hours of operation in their job, but really helping them to see a career path, and specifically around, here's your mentoring circle, here's your peer set, here's your onboarding buddy, and making that onboarding experience really differentiated and delivering on that, because again, they want gifts and games. So really working hard to kind of get that group in. And that also allowed us to get that next level up, schooled to be able to help those people. So they build those natural relationships where you wouldn't normally do that, especially with our work from home group. So.
Excellent. Marco?
Yeah, I think from a Bell standpoint, very similar to what Lynn mentioned, we do have a grad leadership program where we have internships, et cetera. And so we've got a really good sort of connection within the university circles. That said, we have recently dipped our toe into this concept of picking first round draft picks and literally offering up a full-time job while in school. And so that's, again, not for everybody, but it's worked out in many, many cases. We talk about flexible work environment, right? So where, individuals can take on this additional set of responsibilities, we found that it's worked out quite well. And then the other piece I would say is it's around innovation, at least within my, OPT department, in a sense that you can either decide to buy off the shelf, or you could look at buying as well as building part of the IP. And I think in choosing that path, we've been able to attract some really, really good talent that would otherwise consider, as an example, the Amazons, the hyperscalers, et cetera. And so as an example, we recently hired somebody from U of T, 3.97 GPA, aerospace of engineering. Again, this individual is being offered a number of different positions with hyperscalers, but with what we're working on, I think that ended up attracting this individual to our organization.
Just quick follow-up question for Marco. So being a part of the Big Blue, as you think about your hiring strategy, do you put a lot of thought into what the Big Red might be doing or the Big Purple and Green, just because your space is quite uniquely competitive for those three? Or does that come into play, or is it just you think about some other factors?
Yeah, so once a month I have a poker game at my house. It's and it's true. We have people from the red team as well as the green team there, right? And we share ideas and stuff. But I think, our approach has been a little bit different than the green guys, right? The green guys, they had a work from home program 15 years ago. I started one of the first work from home programs there, and it was actually written about in a book. And well, I think you probably remember some of that as well too, right? And so
we were early adopters at Whirlpool too.
right. And so our strategy has been a little bit different than the green and the red, right? And I think you have to differentiate yourself. I think on their side, they're more about buying traditional sort of big, players. And not to say that that's a bad strategy, but ours has been more sort of like innovation, et cetera. And so, I think that's obviously, key for us and has worked quite well.
Good. Thank you for that.
Okay, so much to choose from. Thank you all for your first initial set of answers. Let's go to something that I think a lot about is this notion of employee participation and how to really get employees involved beyond just coming in or being at home and doing their actual jobs. Lynn talks about discretionary effort that might come into this, but I'm curious just to get the team's thoughts on generating employee participation so they feel much more connected to the workspace. Marco, if you want to, maybe we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, so participation, when I think about participation, I think about engagement, right? I'm not just showing up. And a good example of that would be post-COVID, the developers within my shop built this social media type app. And as we were encouraging people to come back into work, again, the big blue machine is different than the green guys, we do want to see people come in, right? And so I think I was talking to Jeannie a little earlier. The way that I see programmers is a little bit different than most. I see them as like the next Pradas and Versaces, et cetera, because they're designers, they're building things, right? Especially when you think about the metaverse, they're actually designing everything, right? And so that design effort works better when we're together, face to face. There's a reason why we're here today, and we're not doing this over the metaverse, right? And having said that, they actually developed a digital twin for myself, believe it or not. Like I can actually hold meetings in the metaverse and invite them in. We've done that before. It's kind of creepy, and it's not the same at all. It was interesting. Having said that, yeah, participation is about showing up with a purpose, right? So the app that they built was an app that would indicate where they're going to be showing up and when. Okay, so at Bell, it's 3 days a week. When. And through, our phone, they would, individuals, let's say I was working out of the Winford office this past Wednesday, and somebody wanted to, let's say, set up an event, a scrum session. Let's say they were experiencing an issue with a particular line of code or whatever. They would set up a scrum session, and that invite to that particular session would go out to the people that were planning to go into Winford on Wednesday. Likewise, they have other, events that they set up as well, such as lunch. And I can tell you that food is a really good way of sort of bringing people together and building culture, et cetera, and all that stuff, team engagement. And I can tell you that when I look at this application, I honestly, I get a little teary-eyed when I look at it, because I was in London a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking, there's got to be over 1,000 pictures since we've launched this app. There's hundreds and hundreds of campaigns, and they're amazing marketing campaigns, just like you would see in a regular social media app, and people can do likes and all that stuff and load up pictures and videos. They even set up this hockey day in Canada event where I had to go in and, don the uniform and get on the ice. So it's really cool, to see that sort of level of engagement. But I think, to me, participation is really about engagement, and this type of technology really helps.
I would love to see that app. That sounds super fun. So I want to take it a different direction, because there, especially during COVID and when everyone was sort of disconnected from each other, that became a big priority, figuring out how to engage with people, how to see how they're feeling on a daily basis. But one of the things, so besides COVID and engaging with people on an individual level, there was something that always resonated with me. And my call center was born out of an acquisition. So it was net new. There was a big, heavy burden of transfer of knowledge from the previous operation to mine. And so there was a big dependency on information, and also different leadership, different goals, different objectives, and trying to understand where we could be doing better. And so we sort of built the engagement model around process improvement, continuous improvement, which is not unusual in call center operations, but can be very empowering for people when they feel like their feedback is important, that the shareholder's voice needs to be heard, and that there's someone listening. So there was a few different ways to do this. Some of it was in the, selfishly to sort of test the knowledge and see where we were on the curve of transferring. So a little bit of quizzing, random mystery shopping, and sort of rewarding people for using their tools and knowledge articles and such. But there was another piece of mining escalations, not for, performance issues, but for what did we learn from that could have done better in the process, in the business process. Oftentimes we look for who handled that call as the first question, right? Who handled that call that turned into an escalation or a complaint? But it's usually far beyond the person, and there's something at the root of that that could have been done better for the employee's experience that would have changed the outcome. And so as soon as employees don't feel like that escalation or that complaint is being looked at from a performance management lens, like there maybe is a little bit of that as well, but we're really talking about what could we have done better systemically that would have changed the experience for the shareholder. And that I've always found to be a big lift in engagement. When people feel like they can contribute to the future experience, and when they feel like you're listening to needs and wants from a technology side of things, they see that you're making investments and you're spending the time to understand their point of view. That's where we're doubling down on engagement from a transition, knowledge, process improvement, figuring out what our service strategy needs to look like, and creating good, engaged employees.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So we have similar strategies. I won't go into too much detail. We do use Slack as a company strategy to drive engagement. We get a lot of participation from Asia-Pac, not as much from the US. Our developers actually, though, did build a tool that is company-specific, and we had what's called an innovation, and like innovation, but with an E for E2Open. And they built one. It's really cool because it has applicability not just for engagement, but also for training and for gamifying training, and for basically gamifies everything. So again, think about our audience, think about where they're at, pretty young. And so everybody's really excited about rolling this out. I kind of like it because you get bonus points if you finish your trainings and pay for performance and all the certifications. You get bonus points if you get it done early, but you have penalty points, 5 for fighting, if you don't get them done on time. So I don't see that in commercial models. So we're actually looking at this particular model. We may even commercialize it. So I think that was pretty cool, because a lot of times I'm always complaining about, did you get your completed staff work done? And I'm always chasing people for their completed staff work. This is just a way to gamify it, and I don't have to chase people anymore. I'm happy about it. So.
Very interesting. I don't know if you guys caught Lynn's hockey reference, but she's a huge hockey fan. Literally, she could be Canadian with the amount of. She actually said 5 for fighting. I'm not sure everyone caught that. I know Graham definitely caught that. Okay, let's just check for wow, okay. Look at that, eh? 2 questions, 20 minutes, that's awesome. Okay, 3:30. Dave, how are we for time? We're okay for another? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so let me pick another juicy one. Bear with me for a sec, I had 10 here. Not sure how I thought we'd handle 10.
We'll be here all night.
Yeah, we could skip the round table and just keep going. Just kidding. So I'm going to put this question out there because it was something that came up in recent work that we did, and we spent quite a bit of time thinking through it. When we think about nurturing employees, there's this sense that we're nurturing them to the next role, and that a lot of people come into the contact center, and it's their first real opportunity with the company. They're going to show what they can do, and as early as a year, they're going to move forward. In some cases, moving forward could be within the contact center, but often it's outside, because that's where people are truly trying to get to. And so there's this notion of, well, do we do enough to keep people who just love delivering service? I know there might not be a lot of those individuals, but there are some. So the question here is, how do we cultivate service delivery professionals? Because I think about the value that someone who's going to choose to be a service professional for 10 to 15 years, think about how much knowledge, mentorship, influence, etc. they carry. And so that is the question to this team. How do we cultivate service delivery professionals? Let's start with Lynn. Give everyone a chance to start.
All right. So what we're putting in is literally a pay for performance. Probably all of you already have this. Like there's CS 1, 2, 3, 4. But at the CS 3 level, so we have 5 levels, you can then look at deciding if you want to go out or you want to stay in. And if you want to stay in, then we do a whole different round of development with you. And you could stay as just a service professional, and you stay in that band, and you don't tap out, but you then become service professional mentor. And there's a couple other levels versus I want to go into leadership. So we mapped all three of those out. So we mapped out an exit strategy, and that's typically for people that maybe are degreed and they want to go work in, marketing or whatever they want to do. And then we've got these other two ways where, much like engineering, so you're developers, right? You've got developers that want to lead people and lead others in development, and you got other people that are developers and I just want to develop stuff. So you give them the engineering path. Same thing at Whirlpool, we had the engineering path. We now have you're a customer service professional and you follow that CS path. So then you become a mentor, and there's several other titles. I can look them up for you.
I love that. That's awesome. That's very much what we see in terms of an employee journey, that very critical element, at that inflection point of decision. It's great. Kim?
So it's going to seem similar on the same theme, but and because our current contact center is still very new, we're not there yet as far as developing the path. However, in past lives, including my own, I've seen, because I come from the Big Red, so there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us it's green and purple.
Yeah.
Is it not? Marco keeps saying green, but they're both.
It's green guys. Yeah.
Green guys.
Yeah.
That's purple next.
So I struggled over the years to help people make that leap. So within the contact center environment, easily done. Lots of different variety and roles. I think I've done all of them. But moving out of the contact center into the organization was a big leap for a lot of people. People struggled. People failed. On both sides, they failed in understanding what it takes to make that leap, and on the other side, it failed because we don't understand what we're getting as a skill set. And so I've studied this, like trying to figure out the right place to take the goodness, because there's some really good humans who are very passionate about what they do and really want to use those skills for good. But where do you place them in a product and marketing and digital? That they all have skill sets that we look for that call center agents don't necessarily come equipped with. And in one case, we found a path that was very successful. And again, it'll seem similar in nature, but it was around process improvement. And process work, although you do need specific skills to do, Six Sigma or whatnot, to do a lot of process engineering kind of work, there is a skill set that's not well understood, which is the ability to mine the contact center, the call data, the drivers, to understand what's going on, what the pain points are, the dissatisfaction survey, or just the quality reports, like what is going on. That is like gold for identifying your issues, understanding what's happening in the course of an escalation, like where that breakdown is. That is something that is not easily found in people, and frontline employees have that inherent skill to do it. So that's been the most successful way to bridge the gap and bring those contact center people into roles where they can use what they know and the passion for what they do into material ways to improve business processes and therefore the customer experience, and definitely was part of my career path.
And just to add to that, but how nice is that? Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. I can. How nice is that for the employee to maybe be part of the solution, even as we think back to retention, right? This notion of I'm engaged, I'm participating, and I'm actually being listened, heard, and actioned. And as a result, I'm shaping the future. Like, that's a really nice story.
Yeah, anyone who's been part of changing something permanently, that is their career building stuff that everyone wants to be able to say, I made a change here, a change for the good, a change that affected people's lives or made a positive impact financially too. Like, there's definitely different benefits to be had, but it's very rewarding work to be able to be part of.
That's great. Marco?
This is a terrible question to ask to the tech guy.
You're more than just tech, but that's okay.
Right. Okay, so there was a video that I saw, I think it was about 15 years ago, where I think it was titled Shift Happens. I don't know if you can find it on YouTube or whatever, right? And it talked about how things were changing in the industry. And at that time, we were talking about AI, and it's, we're going to reach cognitive levels by the year, whatever, and so on and so forth. And we now reach the state of pretty much, Chat GPT being that appliance that we could overlay on top of, let's say, a website and turn on a live agent almost instantly. And it's with very human-like sort of responses. So what I would say is that, you know, I think the way to answer that question, I'll answer it from a 5 to 10 years out perspective. If you, anybody, I don't know if anybody saw the recent headline news from British Telecom a couple weeks ago. 42% of their staff were being laid off by the year 2030, which represents 55,000 team members. And in the next couple, 3 years, 11,000 are going to be exited, right? And it has everything to do with all of this technology, right? So when it comes to the way we service clients, what they're saying, and we're seeing the exact same thing, you've got the Gen Zs, and I would even say millennials, obviously, as well as the Gen Xers. They don't want to spend too much time with us. Their preferred channel is digital. We're all addicted to this, where's my phone? Right, thing. And so people do, like the word agile is being used quite often these days, right? And so time is really important. You got to get it right, and you got to get it right when they want it. And so the way that I see service, you know, is a little different, right? Because we worked together on this one, right? We launched the first live assist bots within the contact center in North America, right? And so, you know, we've got some of my developers here today where, you know, I feel that they are service professionals as well too, right? They're managing bots that are taking care of clients on a one-to-many relationship, right? If one of those bots goes down, it's equivalent to about, you know, 40 agents. And so I think across the organization, we all need to be service champions. We all need to have service metrics in our scorecard. NPS is going to be extremely important across the organization as well as churn, right? So the way that I see cultivating new service, you know, champions is really a little different. It's not just, you know, having that human interaction, but managing all of the channels, including the digital side of things, right? So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Candidly, I'm sure we could spend the next 40 minutes just continuing to have this great discussion, and I'm only going to stop it now because I know we're running short. We do want to have a round table, but please, a very nice, warm thank you for this esteemed panel.